12 or 13-ish,
12 or
somewhere around
13.
there. Yeah, in which some moms all meet up, chat, invite you around the living room to hear what we talk about. We did ask for some questions, and we saw one from last time and a new one this time that we were going to throw out there. We already talked a little bit about the trucker convoy, kind of a big deal right now. We're all pumped about it, hoping that God uses it in a big way. It's awesome. He already has. He already has used it. It's amazing.
It's surreal. It was hard to get back to normal life this morning.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my family drove to Elmsdale to wave as they drove by yesterday morning. So you're just so revved because you're so excited to be part of it.
Then you come home and watch all the videos.
And
all over the country.
Videos. I just want to watch videos.
Awesome.
I want, where are they now?
Yeah.
But I have to get back to my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So much time has passed. How many weeks has it been? I had plans. It's one of the questions that kind of like, how do you fit it all in? Fits in with my word for the year, which I hadn't really told anybody what it was, but it was scarlet, and it's taken from Proverbs 31. The focus that it makes me think of focusing on my home and family and ministering to them, not so much as I really for a number of years have been very focused on outside of my home, hospitality and all that stuff, which is really good. I don't regret that necessarily, but some women need to learn how to be hospitable because they just can't come out of their own schedules and their own homes and their own little bubbles in their families. Some people need to learn how to come from that end of the spectrum. I'm on the other side where I'm just like go, and constantly have so many people involved in my life. So I've kind of realized, Mom and Dad have been telling me for years, like you really need to rein it in and just focus on your family. But the past couple of years have really made me realize the wisdom in that. And so Scarlet just kept popping up in my head, and from Proverbs 31, and it kind of makes me remember the whole chapter. And when I looked at it, I realized that there's only one verse in all of Proverbs 31 that she focuses on someone outside of her home. She reaches her hand out to the poor and needy. Her focus is always on home, her family, her husband, working to care for her home, managing it well, and whatever she does is to enrich it, right? To benefit it, to make it grow, to produce more for her family. So I'm sure this year will be very messy. I'll probably offend people because I have to learn how to say no to things and people and outings while I learn how to focus on home, because it is a new skill set for me. Not that I don't want to. I love being home, and I'm learning to love it more. The more I'm home and the more quiet we are, the more I absolutely love it and realize the benefits of that. But there is so much still to fit in a day. So much. And my phone's being used right now. I don't know what the question was. The question
is about balance. A woman that she's pulled in a lot of directions.
What woman isn't, right? So she listed a bunch of things. She's obviously got a very busy life, a lot on her plate. And how do we make all of that work? How do we make sure we're getting it all done? Which is what I'm spending this year learning to prioritize.
That's one of my questions. It's kind of word definition again, like we've talked about before, like define balance. I can struggle with that word. I told you that, right? Because I think that there is kind of an idea of balance in the world where there's like this ideal that you can have between, work and home and leisure, and everything is going to have this perfect balance.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where we get the idea biblically that that's something that we should have or will ever have. I mean, I think that balance, like you might...
always work.
Well, think of the scale, right? Balance is equal weights, right?
Equal weights.
Nothing, no one particular thing pulling you to...
Right. But you still might go to bed at the end of the night exhausted. Like, putting your head on the pillow and be exhausted. Like, doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. Like, I'm trying to think
Sally Clarkson freed me up from that years ago because Jesus wasn't balanced. He went nonstop for 3
Yeah.
days at a time sometimes. And then he'd go in the wilderness and pray, like completely alone. So,
Yeah.
like when we picture
if we-
balance, we picture even, steady, like everything just,
And everything's,
but a woman's life is not balanced.
and it might never be balanced. I really believe that God will give me what I need to do the things that He's called me to do. I think sometimes we, as women, we need to look at that. We need to evaluate that, like you said, and say, okay, what, priority-wise, what am I doing that things I shouldn't be doing, or that God hasn't called me to? And I know every woman's situation is different, and I don't know this particular
And different
lady.
stages or different seasons will
Right.
throw you into a little bit crazier.
But I think it's good to step back sometimes and say, okay, is everything that I am doing what God wants me to be doing? That's always a good thing to evaluate every so often in our lives. But I can still go to bed exhausted, and I might not, and that leisure time or that self time too, right, is the other thing that if you actually look up the word balance, I looked it up once in the dictionary, and there's a definition there now for it that's a little bit more modern, that's kind of like balance in your, it does literally say work, leisure, and family. Those were the three categories in the definition. And I thought, now, my leisure may not be balanced with everything else, right? Like, I might not get to do all those things, or self-care.
Right.
This is, quite a big thing today too, right? Like needing, self-care and me time. So, when you're saying it's not balanced, are you saying I'm not getting the me time that I think I should be getting?
Yeah.
And I'm tired.
Yeah.
Right? So just, there's questions there like
I
that
think
for
it's
me.
healthier not to make balance your goal, but are you honoring God? With your life all day long?
You do need to step back and say, okay, what do I have? Are you married? There's some obvious things
Yeah.
that go on your schedule. Do you have children? And depending on what age, the things on that schedule are going to be obvious. Like you have to feed them, you have to bathe them, you have to make sure they're in bed at a certain time. If you're a homeschooler, you have to teach them. Like there's some obvious things. That's going to take up a lot of your time. But stepping back and, like you said, examine.
And we can
First
ask
of all,
God,
make
what
sure.
do you want me to do?
Yeah,
Is there something here that you would tell me I should or could give up, and I'm just not paying attention? And sometimes I don't want to ask because I don't want to know. Because you might say get rid of that, and I don't want to get rid of that.
And it's
That's
often
mine.
it's the things that
He
that
might
are
say, spend more
mine.
time
Usually
on
it's
that.
the leisure
activities, right? It's the things that I want to do for me,
Yeah.
right?
But this
Because
lady,
I have to.
I mean, this lady didn't
look
mention that
after
at all.
my-
She, like some women absolutely do have a heavy load
Yeah,
for a
if
long
you're caring
season
for an
of
in-law
life.
and you've
Yeah.
got
If
children
if
at
you
home, you're the
just
single
stretched,
parent
you just are.
who has to work, and there's just one thing. Your days can be absolutely more than full. So
And there may not be anything that can come off.
yeah,
You know.
and that is true, which always makes me think Hebrews 12, 13, or both.
I don't know what verse you're
With
thinking.
the weary hands that hang low.
Just before that, where it says to cast off any weight and sin that does so easily beset us, and move with patience, run with patience the race set before us. So that's the examining part. You cast aside any weight, like your phone, time, right? The leisure time is usually a weight. Things that are taking up time that don't need to in your day. They may be fun for you, but they are actually a weight to you getting done what is most important. And then your sin. So you've cast aside your weights, the things that are taking up too much time that aren't necessary, and then your sin. You check that out. God will let you know. And cast that aside, and whatever you have left over, even if it looks like it's too much, is what God means for you to carry, and you have to lift up the hands that hang low and the knees, that buckle, and move forward with knowing God will give you the grace.
Absolutely have those things, but also I want to throw in their mindset because.
Well, that's the lift up.
Yeah, so I've really been struggling with that lately, and when you feel like you have too much to do and you can't get rid of any of it, and you get up in the morning and it's just really discouraging when you know I'm not going to have time and energy to do today what I need to do. So what I'm doing is I just choose to be joyful. Okay, well,
Mm.
slap a smile on my face and do the first thing.
Yeah.
And then do the next thing, and you know what, things don't get done, and it's okay. Sometimes something important doesn't get done, and I learn from that, and I'll do that first next time. You know, but I'm not looking for what people would describe balance to be anymore. I'm just looking to do the next
Do the
thing,
next thing.
The next
do
thing.
it to honor
Yeah.
the Lord, and trust
Yeah.
Him to fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
And sometimes you do go to bed wanting to cry,
Yes.
or after cry, just get it out
Just
because
cry.
you're
Go
just
ahead.
that
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
know, still go to bed and lay your head on the pillow at night very exhausted.
There are seasons of life where there is a lot. There's just a lot that we have
There's
to
so
do.
many things that
Mhm.
that I asked other people advice for, and they gave me very practical
Yeah.
things that would help. So when the kids were young, and even just constantly having to clean up my house was a weight for me. And they're like, pack all of your toys away except for like 2 or 3 things, and that's all that you have to clean up. There's no mess. You don't have to worry. And then when you rotate the toys, it's like Christmas morning for the kids, and they're excited. It is easier to keep upkeep. I remember talking to Charmin way back, and I might have been pregnant. I was sick or something, and it was hard to feed children. Like, you have all these little ones, and she's like, "It's not a sin to eat Kraft dinner."
Can you believe it, guys?
Yeah.
That's a record
Charmin
show.
said
don't
that?
know.
Tanya's not
You know?
sure. That might be a sin.
And I
I might not give that advice.
at that age, the kids, I could feed them with a box or 2 of Kraft dinner,
Yeah.
and I went out and I bought Kraft dinner and French fries. She's like, "There's vitamin C in French fries.
Like,
Like,
that's all I need
it's
to know.
And when you're in that state where you cannot keep up, and I was anemic, of course, and depressed and lots of other things, but that was a weight. I could actually let that go for a season so that I had more time to make sure I was getting the important things done, like school,
Yeah.
and getting the kids bathed and read to, and staying sane.
Mhm.
So there was lots of practical helps to keep like, it seems like it's such a small thing, but when you like changing it so that you cook 1-pot meals, so you don't have as many dishes to clean afterward. Like, just tweak your menu so that you only have to mess up 1 pot, and that's what you clean up after supper. It's if you're thinking ahead about all of the ways that you might be able to tweak it and simplify your life so that you will have extra minutes to work with in the end of the day.
Because we've talked a lot about making life beautiful. But we're not telling you that you have to make gourmet meals and spend all your time decorating and,
Yeah.
staging your home and coordinating outfits and all that kind of stuff. I hope we get that across, that you can really, really keep it simple and still have it special and beautiful and fun. Yeah, a bowl of Kraft dinner.
There was even a time when I got rid of so many clothes, and I kept so I have 4 young children and so much laundry. I got rid of all of the I packed them away. I didn't throw them out. Packed away all of the towels except for 1 for each of us, and all of the clothing went away except for 2 outfits plus a church outfit, and that was it for everybody. I could not believe how little laundry I had to deal with. And that was a weight that
They
could
didn't
go.
mess up those clothes?
They had 2 outfits, so
So
one
you
would
just
be in
did
the
laundry more often?
Yeah. Well, no, I was doing lots of laundry anyway, but I didn't have 10 loads waiting for me
Okay, I
to
see
fold
what
on
you're
the
I
couch.
just taught my kids to do laundry.
And they did that too, but when they're 6
When
and
they're
under.
little.
They were pretty young when they started.
Yeah.
Tanya's like, laundry,
No,
come on.
they were pretty young.
Which is excellent. Again,
Yeah, I'm there
that helps
now.
too.
Again, I'm there, and I'm overwhelmed, and things have piled up. We've accumulated things. I'm having to. I need to address all that stuff. But when your life is full, how do you find the time to do that?
And like,
And where do you begin? You
Mom
just
always
pick
says
something.
delegate.
Just pick
Delegate.
something and do
Mhm.
it. Because I get overwhelmed with the big picture.
Mhm.
Just pick something. Pick a closet. Pick one kid's clothes.
That's what I was gonna do.
Just pick one meal. We're just,
Oh.
you know what? We're having peanut butter sandwiches for lunch indefinitely.
Mhm.
That's just what we're doing.
Mhm.
And just simplify one thing. And
It's
then
okay.
when that's going well, pick another thing.
It was the great home reset at my house 3 weeks ago. That's what I was going to do. And I was going to tackle things because I'm focused on home. And I started in my entryway, and I was dealing with stuff little by little, just picking away at it. Marty got sick, and he was really sick for like a week. And then things calmed down. I'm like, okay, this is it. I canceled school for the week, and I had plans. I was going to really do a number on the entry and get things, because it was messy. It was so bad. It always gets bad in the winter. And then I got sick. And now not only did it not get done, it is way worse
It's
than
worse
it
now.
was before it needed the reset. So today I managed to get the floor scrubbed and put a couple things away. But
See, one
Here
thing
we
at a
are.
time. That's
Same
all
in
right.
Yeah.
my
One
house.
thing
I
at a time.
printed that same. We didn't talk, but I printed the same thing off. And the week that she said she was going to do it, I had it sitting on my counter waiting for me to start it. But then we got sick too. So
and it was not meant to be.
so when you say that, I needed this, guys, because now I know. Get out my clean mama, and I
Yeah.
know where to start.
It is awesome. And my house would be way worse if I hadn't been keeping up with the Clean Mama routine.
And listen,
but-
if a system works for Shannon and for me, it is incredible because we do not work the same.
Tanya works it. She just doesn't do Clean Mama, but it's virtually the same thing on your own schedule. You do the same. You have a plan. You just stick to. Yeah, and it works.
I don't think
Yeah.
Tanya can help it.
I don't know. I don't really feel like I struggle with it. I'm sorry. I feel kind of weird that way.
No,
but it's
it's
just.
No, don't be weird.
I
I
don't
could
even know
benefit
how.
from-
Well, the
I don't
thing
even
is,
know what
though,
to do. It's just rote like now, you know.
As I
It's
have,
like when you end up at Canadian Tire, you don't know how you got there.
and I don't have people coming very often anymore, and I don't go out anymore, and I am shocked at how much easier it is to keep your house. Don't go by my entry. That is my nemesis.
It's
bad.
everybody's nemesis.
It is
Entryways
so
are
bad.
everybody's
Well,
Try
yeah,
to
when you have
picture
large families
Yeah.
and
boys
multiple
coming
seasons,
home.
and
Yeah,
coats
winter.
and boots and
Isaac with
too.
his big bikinis, and he's been working in a dairy barn doing concrete.
Oh.
I start wiping up all this mud. That was not mud.
No.
The
probably not.
smell. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one thing after another. It's piled. Everyone has 3 million pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
But it's a comfort to know
Sure.
I am actually home to deal with it, and it's not just you don't cast a blind eye and keep going because you have to rush out to the next thing.
Mhm.
I'm actually home and dealing with it, and I'll even wake up in the middle of the night with a thought. I can pack those dishes away and tuck them, and then I'll have more room for such and such to make my kitchen work better. Like I'm actually focused on home so much that things are actually falling into place slowly but surely. But it's actually helping. Scarlet.
Scarlet.
It's helping because we have to learn how to get it all done in a day. No, you don't. But that's our job as wives and moms.
and again, starting with that list or looking at what the priorities are, because some things might not get done.
Yeah.
Like Sherman said, so it might be that mud on the floor, but we want to maybe make sure that the time we spent reading to our child does happen. Like what is the most important priority?
Speaking of, that Teaching from Rest book is phenomenal. I think every mom, whether you're homeschool or not, should read that book at least once a year.
I loved it when I read it.
When you
It's
have to
been
choose
it's been
between
a couple years since I read
a job or a person, choose the person. It's just, it should be a no-brainer. But we find it very hard because we have things on our list that have to get done. But yeah, choose to ignore the mud if it means that you are going to be paying
Right.
attention to the person.
I have the audio, but I haven't listened to it. It's only a couple of hours.
And I think when we honestly, for a lot of people, when we honestly evaluate our list, there are things, like you said, there are cases where there's things you can't cut. But for a lot of us, if
We
we're
live-
honest, there is.
We live in a world where we are bombarded with possibilities, endless possibilities of things to fill our days with that 100 years ago, the women
Oh,
did
yeah.
not have
There's
as
a-
temptations. But if you threw technology out the window and said, what am I left with? What do I have to do? It's pretty simple.
Mhm.
It's pretty
And
simple.
to know that, and like I said, it is okay to be tired. It is okay to work hard. It is okay. Like, see, I think today we even have that mindset. Like, we're reading a book in school right now. It's about the Acadians, but just about the life of a family, right? But I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that woman worked hard.
Mhm.
Like, I had no
Yeah.
concept of how
Right.
hard they worked.
Yeah. Throw the technology out, but keep the bathrooms.
Yeah, I'd like, yeah.
But, you know,
And the washers and dryers.
Yeah.
yeah, we've gotten the idea more and more that it is okay to go to bed tired. You might go to bed tired, you know, and that's okay.
Go to bed tired for the good things. For
Yes,
the right things.
yeah. You know, but evaluate your priorities.
You can go to bed tired shopping
do
all
it,
day,
but
True.
you know, do we have that expectation of again? You know, I'm tired and I'm not getting me time and I'm not getting, you know.
I think the goal, if we were rounding all that up, is to ask God what it is that would be glorifying to Him.
Mhm.
What are the things? And some days those are going to be more things than we think we can handle. But the good news is we can't handle most of what we're given, but God can. Just be in prayer and studying to know what it is that He wants us to do. And that, obviously looks different practically for everybody
Well,
in everybody's
it
house,
may.
right?
But really, if you looked at Proverbs 31, you feed your family, you clothe your family, and you make the money stretch. And if someone comes to your door that needs help, you help them as much as you can.
Mhm.
That's it,
I really
That's what you
think
do.
we make it more complicated than it is.
right? But then now we have
It's
so
hard to
many
sift through it all, though.
so many
is.
possibilities and programs, and people can be so involved in, like, texting and stuff can be so
Consuming.
and I get a lot of texts that they're important.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah,
Heavy
because
stuff
there are
coming
people.
through,
There's
prayer
people on
requests,
the other
right?
end of those texts,
Exactly.
right? I get that.
and you can't just cut that off, but you need some heavy duty discernment, or you
Mm.
will just get caught up in the whirlwind. And God doesn't need you, right? God doesn't need he actually assigned you to your home and
Right.
your kids. He didn't assign you to all of these people necessarily that are texting and on the other end of
God's still
technology.
big enough. Like, because if I get involved in all of that, then that's taking away 90% of the time. I mean, that's
Yes.
taking away from Amy and Abby. That's taking away from our school. That's taking away from
Yeah.
the things I know that I'm called to first and foremost here. Outside of an emergency,
Yes.
I have to know that, Shannon will be, if your tech, he needs me, she'll be okay.
Yes.
God is still big enough
Yes.
for that. He can handle that without me.
Yeah.
Right. There are other people, or there's just God Himself,
Yes.
which sometimes is what we need.
It's true.
So yeah, just because I know, first and foremost, usually outside of an emergency situation,
Yeah.
I have to
And it can be really hard.
keep my focus.
You can be concerned over hurting other people or them misunderstanding. But
Even with all of this, what's going on now, like Sherman said the other day, I mean, it's hard not to want to be involved in like all of this. Like, we were just talking about the trucker convoy, and she was
let's go to
saying
Ottawa.
she had to go home and go back to life.
Yep.
Right? Because what's in front of her, and that right now, or that post that we hold right now is, is our children and what we're doing, just day to day small obedience.
Doesn't end up being too small in the
No.
end.
No, I'm trying
Feels so small
What's
now.
that Gandalf quote? I love that one. It's small everyday acts of obedience that actually defeats darkness or keeps darkness at bay. It's Gandalf. Faithful obedience with that
351.
next thing sometimes.
Do we have time to tackle faith versus wisdom? Let's do it.
Fear
Sorry, faith. Don't.
That sounds easy.
Okay. So fear versus wisdom. Unpack that a little bit. Like what?
Well, I
does
guess,
that look like?
yeah, and I can't remember, I think we asked for clarification, and I can't remember what it was, because I think it was fear of man versus God's wisdom.
How do you know when you're acting out of
Out of
the fear of man or
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
moving forward in wisdom?
Right.
I'm thinking of just a few guys, but like the underground church in China kind of thing, right? Like there would be, they would not. You still use wisdom in how you go about meeting
But
would that be
yeah,
Right,
not
right
man
there.
or-
That's a good example.
but they're not running out and having a meeting in the middle of the street to be known
Right.
by
Right.
where they're meeting by the police.
Right,
It's not
you
wrong
know,
to.
Because at this point,
Their
they
fear
know
is
they
moving
could
them
be
to
murdered.
Yeah,
careful.
it's hard
Yeah.
to accuse a man
I think that-
of a fear of man
right.
for not taking his family to a public meeting, knowing they'll probably get shot or
Yeah.
dragged off to
Yeah.
prison and torture. It's really hard
Yeah,
to say
they're
that's
meeting.
fear of man.
They're meeting anyway, even though they know they could get in trouble.
Right.
Because they fear God.
exactly?
But
But they are using
hiding
earthly wisdom,
because man is to be feared in that situation because they could be murdered.
and we still have to trust God with the outcome, right? Like they still.
Yeah. So maybe the question is, at what point, and how do you flush that out?
I
Like-
think we want a black and white answer.
Mm,
I think we want to be able to say, if you do this, it's good, and if you do this,
Yeah.
it's not good.
Yeah.
But
Every situation and every person will be different,
yeah,
and again, we're
Paul
reading through Genesis,
operated
and
that
they're
way.
constantly acting out of fear and making the wrong decisions,
Right.
and God blesses them anyway.
I know.
Right,
And there's
right.
times
And
where God
protects them,
tells
so-
you to go anyway and risk your
Yeah.
life, and there's times where He says stay home.
Paul
so,
was let down out of a basket,
Yeah.
or you know,
Yeah.
and like there were times he ran, or
Yeah.
times that he was warned that there was attacks on him, and the guards were warned.
Right.
Like there were different situations
Told him not to
where,
come at a particular
you know,
time. Or, yeah.
where definitely they used wisdom, and they didn't just walk right into a situation and call down fire from heaven and God to protect them. I mean, he was like, "I better put me in a basket and get me out of here," right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it happened. So
Yeah, and other times he full face knew he was going to jail, did it anyway.
yes, and I don't. That I would think wisdom versus fear. I don't think he was afraid, like, because he went right into situations knowing what he full well could
Mhm.
be awaiting him. Like when the guy bound his hands with the belt and said, "Don't go," he's like, "I'm going," right? Like he wasn't afraid, but he. I just read that recently. He was afraid in situations, but he did it. Like he went anyway. But used
Yes.
wisdom, yeah, and
If only we had the faith it took to just move forward in whatever we thought would bring the most glory if it all worked out
yeah.
to the Lord, glory to the Lord.
Yeah.
And just did it anyway, because you know what, God is sovereign and He's gonna do whatever He wants, no matter
Yeah.
what. If only we could be that brave.
yeah, like, are you
Yeah.
choosing what you're choosing? Because if you don't choose that, people won't do what you want them to do, or people will react in a way that will. Are you trusting God to work it out, or the people?
I really don't understand it because my brain doesn't work that way. Though I do understand a bit more fear, like us getting ready to go to church last year,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we're not allowed to be there by, according to,
Yeah.
the police are going to show up.
Not
and
head.
yeah,
And not heads.
the knotheads in Halifax. So I do understand what that fear is, but I'm really not understanding. It didn't change our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to. We've never had to analyze that for ourselves before.
No,
That's the
that was
closest we've
the
ever
first.
come
Yeah.
to actually deciding if
If it was.
But
if this
yeah,
is
if the
something I move
knotheads were
forward
coming
in.
with machetes,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like it would
Yeah.
change
torches and
the discernment
machetes.
there and how we move forward.
Mhm.
We
Right.
wouldn't necessarily not meet, but we might
No.
have been less public about it.
Mm.
But just a ticket or some jail time is not scary to the extent that China, the underground
Right,
church in
right.
China, would have to deal with.
you still are obedient. I mean, if you believe that God is telling you to do something, you must be obedient.
Yes.
Like if He's, which we
Yeah.
did and
Yeah.
were, and the church in China is meeting. They are
Right.
meeting, but yeah, they are using wisdom
Yeah.
in how they're going about that. They're not just, like you said, walking out saying, "Here I am with a target on my head."
Yeah.